Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Yes 101's Visual Radio for the Newsfirst team. I'm Jawad Abdin.
And I'm Theruni Karunaratna. Let's start off with the headlines.
News First headline.
In local news, 4 arrested in PETA for selling harmful cosmetics. Sri Lanka signs Memorandum of Understanding with Vietnam at 37th FAO. Confusion surrounds the fate of electricity tariff in Sri Lanka. In international news, India's Modi says committed to farmers' welfare, protesting leaders call for meeting. And in sports, Kenyan's Moan Marathon world record holder Kiptum as body returns home.
And now bringing you your news in detail. Now, we do know that PETA is quite a place when it comes to business. And we have some news from PETA as well. And now bringing you that news in detail. In an operation led by the Walana Anti-Corruption Unit, 4 individuals were arrested today for allegedly selling cosmetics containing harmful chemical compounds. Now, the arrests were made during a raid on 4 shops within the Second Cross Street of PETA. Now, authorities confiscated a total of 1,143 cosmetic products suspected of containing these dangerous substances. Now, the 4 people who were apprehended, ranging in the age of 22 to 52, hail from Kalagedihena, Moratua and Wattala. They are currently detained while investigations proceed. And Theruni, I believe you have some news on an agreement between Sri Lanka and Vietnam in the FAO conference that took place.
We do. Now we have more news between Sri Lanka and Vietnam have reached an agreement on a Memorandum of Understanding for Agricultural Technology at the 37th FAO conference. Now, Minister of Agriculture and Plantation Industries Mahinda Amarveera says that many factors would strengthen the agricultural sector of both countries, and these were taken into consideration at the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding. Now, bilateral discussions were also held between the Minister of Agriculture and Plantation Industries Mahinda Amarveera and Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development of Vietnam Min Hon Lee. Now, this Memorandum of Understanding was signed as a result of bilateral discussions held between the 2 ministers, taking into consideration multiple factors such as agricultural technology, exchanging ideas, and also several other factors.
Yes, and now moving on to more news from home. Now, a topic that has been trending in the country is the revision of the electricity tariff. And we have news in detail on that as well for you. Now, confusion surrounds the fate of electricity tariffs in Sri Lanka following conflicting statements from the government and the Ceylon Electricity Board. Now, on Wednesday, that is yesterday, in fact, the Minister in charge of Power and Energy, that is Kanchana Wijesekara, announced that electricity tariffs would be reduced by the same percentage as the last increase. Now, however, the CAB has presented a contrasting proposal advocating for a significantly smaller reduction of just 3.5%. Now, this discrepancy has sparked concerns and questions regarding the actual implementation of the promised tariff cut. So that's all the news we have for you here at home, rather. And Theruni, I believe you have some interesting news on the protests that has been happening by farmers. We've seen protests in Europe as well, and
especially in France.
Exactly, and we've had a few protests by farmers here in Sri Lanka as well. But this is from India, and we'll get to that in a little while.
International news.
Let's now move on to international news. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says that his government is committed to the welfare of the farmers of his country and is on a mission to make them entrepreneurs and exporters. Now, this happens amidst a protest by thousands of farmers in India seeking higher prices for their produce. Now, Modi's comments on farmers were his first since the protests began last week and come months before general elections in which he is seeking a rare third term. Jawad. Now, farmers, mostly from the northern state of Punjab, have been attempting to march to the capital for more than 1 week as part of this campaign run by them called Delhi Chalo. This demands legally binding higher prices for their crops, among other things. Now, Jawad, that's a wrap of news overseas. I believe you're ready with sports news from the African continent. Very tragic news. Let's move on to that now.
Sports news.
Yes, Thirin, just like you said, we've got sports news for you from the African continent, rather not very happy news. Now, hundreds of mourners accompanied the casket of marathon world record holder Kelvin Kiptum on its way to his home village, where the young star who dreamed of breaking the race's storied 2-hour barrier will be laid to rest. And now, singing hymns and holding hands, mourners walked alongside the convoy carrying Kiptum's flower-lined casket as it departed a morgue in the western Kenyan city of Eldoret. So not very happy news for Kenyans, I believe. And that brings us a wrap to this edition of Yes 101's Visual Radio. We've had interesting news. We've had the death of Kelvin Kiptum and protesters in India as well, Indian farmers as well, and then the electricity tariff revision of just 3.5%, creating controversy here at home. And with that, we'll wrap up this edition's Yes 101's Visual Radio. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Jawad Abdin.
And I'm Theruni Karunaratne.